The skies over Shanghai blazed with an otherworldly light as Dr. Sarah Chen stood transfixed at her laboratory window. The massive object that had appeared in orbit 3 days ago still dominated the view, its crystalline surface refracting sunlight in patterns that defied conventional physics. As Earth's leading xenolinguist, she had spent the last 72 hours analyzing the alien transmission that accompanied their arrival. Dr. Chen. Her assistant's voice barely registered. The UN Security Council is waiting. Sarah nodded, her eyes still fixed on the vessel above. Tell them I've made a breakthrough. The transmission had puzzled every linguistics expert on Earth. Its mathematical precision suggested intelligence, but its structure defied every known model of language. Until now. Sarah had discovered something that changed everything. The aliens weren't trying to communicate with words, but with pure concepts encoded in quantum states. The conference room fell silent as she entered. Faces both physical and holographic watched with intense anticipation. General Matthews, the head of Earth's newly formed Unified Defense Command, spoke first. Dr. Chen, please tell me you have good news. I've decoded their primary message, she said, activating the holographic display. They call themselves the Axiom, and they claim to be refugees from a dying universe parallel to our own. They're seeking asylum. The room erupted in murmurs. Admiral Wong leaned forward. Can we trust them? Sarah hesitated. Something about the transmission's underlying patterns troubled her. The message appears genuine, but there's complexity in the quantum encoding that suggests layers. Multiple meanings. Multiple meanings. General Matthews frowned. Like what? Before Sarah could answer, every screen in the room flickered. The Axiom vessel had begun moving, descending into the atmosphere. Similar reports flooded in from every major city on Earth. More ships were appearing, dropping out of what appeared to be quantum tunnels in space. They're not waiting for our response, Sarah realized, her blood running cold. She rushed back to her computer, running a deeper analysis of the quantum patterns she'd detected. No, 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 no. The secondary meaning emerged with horrifying clarity. The Axiom weren't refugees, they were hunters. Their message wasn't a request for asylum, but a declaration of intent. They had identified Earth as a viable host for their consciousness transfer technology. Human bodies would serve as vessels for their dying race. Alarms blared throughout the facility as the first wave of quantum weapons struck. The Axiom's attack was unlike anything humanity had prepared for. Their weapons didn't destroy, they transformed. Waves of quantum energy swept through cities, altering the very fabric of human consciousness, preparing it for transfer. Sarah grabbed her quantum decoder and ran. Her discovery about their communication method might be humanity's only hope for understanding their technology. The corridors were chaos as military personnel rushed to battle stations. Through windows, she saw smaller Axiom vessels deploying what looked like crystalline spores into the atmosphere. Dr. Chen. General Matthews caught up to her. The President has ordered an immediate nuclear response. It won't work, Sarah said, showing him her decoder's display. Their ships exist partially in quantum space. Conventional weapons can't touch them. The general's face hardened. Then what do you suggest? A plan was forming in Sarah's mind. Their communication method, it's based on quantum entanglement. If we can understand it fully, we might be able to disrupt their consciousness transfer technology. The facility shook as another wave of quantum weapons hit. Through the windows, they watched in horror as civilians in the streets below began to change. Their movements became mechanical, coordinated. The consciousness transfers had begun. How long? Matthews asked. I don't know, Sarah admitted. But we need to get to the Quantum Research Center in Colorado. They have the equipment I need. Matthews nodded grimly. I'll get you there. But we need to move fast. Whatever you can figure out about their technology, we need it yesterday. They made their way to the underground hangar where a hypersonic transport waited. As they boarded, Sarah looked at her decoder's readings one last time. The quantum patterns were becoming clearer. The axiom weren't just taking over human bodies, they were rewriting the quantum structure of human consciousness itself. The transport lifted off as Shanghai fell to the invasion. Through the viewport, Sarah watched crystalline structures begin to grow from the buildings below, transforming the city into something alien. But amid her fear, she felt a spark of hope. The axiom's quantum technology was incredibly advanced, but it wasn't perfect. There were patterns within patterns, suggesting vulnerabilities. As they flew west, reports came in from around the globe. The axiom's attack was simultaneous and overwhelming. Major cities were falling within hours. Conventional military responses proved useless against their quantum-based weapons and defenses. But humanity wasn't giving up. Already, resistance networks were forming. Military and civilian scientists were sharing data, looking for weaknesses. And in Sarah's quantum decoder, patterns continued to emerge that might hold the key to understanding, and defeating, the invaders. "We've got company," the pilot announced. 3 Axiom pursuit craft had emerged from quantum space behind them. Their crystalline forms seemed to bend reality itself as they approached. "How long to Colorado?" Matthews asked. 20 minutes, if we can shake them." Sarah clutched her decoder tighter. 20 minutes to survive. 20 minutes to protect the one piece of technology that might give humanity a fighting chance. As the transport began evasive maneuvers, she focused on the quantum patterns streaming across her screen. Understanding them wasn't just her job anymore, it was the key to humanity's survival. The axiom had chosen Earth because they saw humans as simple vessels to be overridden. But they had made a crucial mistake. They hadn't counted on human resilience, adaptability, and determination. As the transport dove through a canyon, evading alien fire, Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. The axiom thought they were claiming easy prey, but they were about to learn why humanity had survived every catastrophe in its history. They had just started a war they weren't prepared to fight. 10 years had transformed the abandoned subway tunnels beneath Boston into something unrecognizable. Where commuters once stood, hydroponic gardens thrived under UV lights. Old maintenance bays had become weapons labs. And in what used to be a storage room, Marcus Rivera studied a holographic map of the crystalline structures that now dominated the surface. Another pattern shift, his second-in-command, Maya Williams, noted. "They're adapting again." Marcus nodded grimly. The axiom's quantum architecture never stayed static for long. Just when the resistance would find a weakness, the alien structures would reconfigure themselves. But this time was different. This time they had help. Dr. Chen's latest quantum analysis just came in through the secure network, Maya said, holding up a data crystal. "She thinks she's found something big." The mention of Sarah Chen brought back memories of the day everything changed. He'd been a Marine Corps colonel then, leading the defense of Washington, D.C. when the quantum waves hit. They'd lost the city, but Chen's early warning had allowed them to save thousands, moving them underground before the consciousness transfers began. "Show me," he said. The hologram shifted, displaying complex quantum patterns that made his head hurt to look at. But among the chaos, there was order. Chen had highlighted specific frequencies that repeated across all axiom structures. "It's their quantum network," Maya explained. Dr. Chen believes every piece of their technology is connected through quantum entanglement. Including the transferred consciousnesses. Marcus leaned closer. "You're saying there's no individual control? Everything links back to their central network?" "Exactly." Maya's eyes gleamed. "One network, one weakness." Before Marcus could respond, alarms blared through the tunnel system. Red lights flashed as resistance fighters rushed to battle stations. Maya checked her tablet. "Quantum spike in Sector 7. They've found one of our surface entrances." "How many?" At least 30 converted. Mixed civilian and military hosts. Marcus grabbed his modified pulse rifle. The weapon had been enhanced with quantum disruption technology, one of the few innovations that could temporarily disable converted humans without killing them. Get the civilians deeper underground. I'll lead the defense team. The converted were the hardest to fight, humans whose consciousness had been overwritten by axiom minds. They still looked human, but moved with inhuman precision and coordinated perfectly through their quantum network. Worse, they could be anyone, former friends, family members, colleagues. Marcus led his team through the tunnels, their footsteps echoing off walls covered in resistance graffiti. Messages of hope and defiance mixed with warnings and maps. This was humanity's new world, living in shadows, fighting an enemy that wore familiar faces. They reached the defensive position just as the first converted broke through. The battle that followed was swift and brutal. The converted moved like machines, sacrificing themselves without hesitation to achieve their objectives. But the resistance fighters had experience and desperation on their side. Push them back. Marcus ordered, his quantum rifle disrupting the neural patterns of two converted soldiers. They dropped, temporarily freed from axiom control. Resistance medics rushed forward to sedate them before the quantum network could re-establish connection. The battle ended as quickly as it had begun. The converted either lay unconscious or had retreated, likely to report the Resistance's defensive capabilities back to their network. Marcus helped the medics secure the last of the disabled converts. "They're getting bolder," Maya said as they walked back to command. "This is the third probe this week." Marcus agreed. The Axiom had grown increasingly aggressive in their attempts to root out resistance cells. But something about this attack felt different. They weren't trying to overwhelm us. They were testing our defenses, studying our responses. "You think they know about Chen's discovery?" "Maybe. He studied the quantum pattern analysis again. Or maybe they know we're getting close to something." Back in the command center, new data was streaming in from resistance cells worldwide. Similar probing attacks had been reported in London, Moscow, and Singapore. The Axiom were coordinating something big. A secure transmission came through from Dr. Chen's hidden facility in the Rocky Mountains. Her face appeared on the main screen, looking exhausted but excited. "Commander Rivera, are you seeing these pattern shifts? We just fought off an attack. They're definitely acting differently. It's more than that." She sent through new data. "The quantum network is experiencing fluctuations. Massive ones. I think it's having trouble maintaining control over all the converted consciousnesses." Maya leaned forward. "Are you saying their network is failing?" "Not failing. Evolving. Human consciousness is more complex than they anticipated. The converted aren't just empty vessels anymore. Something of their humanity is bleeding through, creating instabilities in the quantum matrix." Marcus felt a surge of hope. This was what they'd been waiting for, proof that humanity couldn't be simply overwritten and forgotten. Even after a decade of occupation, the human spirit was fighting back. "How do we exploit this?" he asked. "I'm sending you blueprints for a quantum pulse generator," Chen replied. "If we can amplify these instabilities at the right frequency, we might be able to create cascade failures in their network. But we'll need to get close to their main control spires." Marcus studied the blueprints. The plan was audacious, possibly suicidal. But if it worked, they could free thousands of converted humans and deal the Axiom their first major defeat. "How long to build the generator? With the resources you have?" 2 weeks. "But Marcus." Chen hesitated. "The Axiom will know what we're trying to do. They'll throw everything they have at stopping us. Let them try." Marcus looked around the command center, at the faces of humans who had spent 10 years fighting what seemed like an impossible war. "We've lost too much to back down now." As if in response to his words, the quantum pattern display shifted again. The Axiom network was definitely changing, its perfect crystalline structure developing microscopic fractures. Humanity's consciousness, their unbending will to survive, was proving to be something the Axiom hadn't encountered before. The real war was about to begin. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the human brain floating in the quantum suspension chamber. Neural patterns danced across her holographic display, a beautiful and terrifying dance of human consciousness meeting alien technology. After 3 months of continuous work, they were finally ready for the first test of the neural bridge. Neural pathways are stable, Dr. James Keller reported from his station. The aging neuroscientist had been working with her since the discovery of the network instabilities. Quantum field is holding at 99.8% coherence. The laboratory, carved deep into the Rocky Mountains, hummed with energy. This was humanity's most ambitious project since the invasion, an attempt to turn the Axiom's own quantum technology against them. The idea had come from studying the converted. If the Axiom could interface with human consciousness, perhaps humans could learn to interface with their technology. Begin Phase 1 synchronization, Sarah ordered. The volunteer in the testing chamber, Lieutenant Maria Ortiz, lay still as neural probes activated around her head. She was one of their best resistance fighters, and more importantly, she had a twin sister who had been converted in the early days of the invasion. That unique neural pattern might be the key to cracking the Axiom's network. Neural sync at 15%. 30%. 45%. Keller called out the numbers as Maria's brain patterns began to align with the quantum field. 60%. 75%. Warning lights flashed. Maria's body arched in the chamber. Neural spike, one of the technicians shouted. She's fighting the sync. Sarah leaned forward to the calm, Maria, remember your training. Don't resist the quantum field. Let it flow through you, like we practiced. Maria's breathing steadied. The warning subsided. Neural sync resuming. 85%. 90%. 95%. Keller paused. We have successful synchronization. The room held its breath. This was the moment they'd been working toward. If Maria could maintain consciousness while synchronized with the quantum field, they would have their breakthrough. Lieutenant Ortiz, Sarah called. Can you hear me? Yes. Maria's voice was strange, resonating with quantum harmonics. I can see them. The network. It's incredible. Sarah's hands flew across her console, recording everything. What exactly do you see? It's like a crystal web, stretching everywhere. I can see all the connections, all the transferred consciousnesses. They're still in there, Dr. Chen. The humans. They're trapped, but they're fighting. The implications were staggering. Not only had they achieved direct access to the Axiom network, but they had confirmation that the converted humans weren't completely gone. Hope, that rarest of commodities, began to bloom in Sarah's chest. Can you interact with the network? She asked. I think so. It's like learning to move a new limb. I can feel, wait. Maria's voice sharpened. Something's wrong. They know I'm here. Alarms blared. The quantum field fluctuated wildly. Network defenses detecting the intrusion, Keller reported. They're trying to trace the connection. Lieutenant, we're pulling you out. Sarah reached for the emergency shutdown. Wait. Maria's voice was strained but determined. I can see something. The network structure, it's not just about control. They're afraid. Afraid? Of what? Of us. Of what we might become. The human consciousness, it's not just resisting them. It's changing them. Every time they convert one of us, they have to fight harder to maintain control. They never expected, never planned. The quantum field spiked again. Maria screamed. Shut it down. Sarah ordered. Pull her out now. The neural probes retracted. Maria gasped as the synchronization broke, but she was smiling. It worked, she whispered. We can fight them on their own ground now. In the hours that followed, as Maria recovered and the team analyzed the data, Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. The neural bridge worked better than they'd hoped, giving them not just access to the Axiom network, but insights into their enemy's psychology. She immediately sent the data to Marcus Rivera's resistance cell. Within days, resistance groups worldwide began constructing their own neural bridges, preparing for what would become known as Operation Phoenix. But Sarah's attention was fixed on Maria's most crucial discovery, the Axiom sphere. What did it mean that these seemingly invincible conquerors feared human potential? The question haunted her as she reviewed the neural recordings. In the quantum patterns, she began to see something extraordinary. The instabilities in the network weren't just random degradation, they were evolution. Human consciousness was somehow transforming the Axiom's quantum technology, creating something entirely new. The implications were both thrilling and terrifying. The Axiom hadn't just started a war for survival, they'd initiated a transformation that they couldn't control. Humanity wasn't just fighting back, they were becoming something more. As Sarah prepared the neural bridge for its next test, she wondered if the Axiom understood what they'd really done. In trying to overwrite humanity, they had instead created the perfect conditions for human consciousness to evolve. The question wasn't whether humanity would survive anymore. The question was, what would they become? The dawn broke over what was once New York City, its light refracting through crystalline spires that had consumed the old skyscrapers. Commander Marcus Rivera stood in the underground command center, surrounded by resistance leaders from around the world, both physical and holographic. Synchronization technology has been distributed to all major cells, Maya reported, updating the global map. Green dots illuminated across every continent, showing neural bridge installations. We're ready to begin Phase 1. Marcus nodded, his eyes fixed on the quantum activity readings. Thanks to Dr. Chen's breakthrough, they could now see the Axiom network for what it was, a vast, living system that had spread across the planet. And today, they would make it burn. All cells confirm ready status, Maya continued. Waiting for your signal. Marcus took a deep breath. 10 years of fighting, hiding, and losing had led to this moment. Begin Operation Phoenix. Across the globe, hundreds of resistance fighters connected to neural bridges, their consciousness merging with the quantum network. Unlike Lieutenant Ortiz's initial test, they weren't just observing now, they were attacking. First wave entering the network, Sarah Chen's voice came through from her Rocky Mountain facility. Quantum disruption patterns holding steady. On the massive displays, they watched as human consciousness flooded the Axiom network. The crystalline patterns that had seemed so perfect began to fracture, overwhelmed by the raw, chaotic power of human thought and emotion. They're responding, Maya warned. Quantum surge detected in all major nodes. They're trying to lock us out. But the Axiom's defenses, designed to control and contain, proved ineffective against this new kind of assault. Human consciousness, evolved through millennia of survival and adaptation, proved too complex, too unpredictable to be easily suppressed. Second wave, initiate. Marcus ordered. More fighters joined the quantum battle. In the physical world, converted humans began to stumble, their Axiom-controlled movements becoming erratic as the network struggled to maintain control. Shanghai Resistance reporting first successful consciousness restoration. Maya announced. Similar reports began flooding in from other cells. The converted were waking up, their original human consciousness breaking free of Axiom control. But the enemy wouldn't go down without a fight. The quantum network pulsed with new energy as the Axiom deployed emergency protocols. Crystal spires throughout the city began to pulse with blinding light. They're attempting a full consciousness transfer. Sarah's voice was urgent. They're trying to download their entire collective into the converted hosts at once. They're desperate, Marcus realized. Push harder. All waves, full assault. The quantum battle reached its peak. In the network, human consciousness clashed with axiom control in a war that transcended physical reality. Each side fought with everything they had, the axiom with their perfect, crystalline order, humanity with their chaos, creativity, and unbreakable will to survive. In New York, the crystal spires began to crack. Similar reports came in from cities worldwide. The axiom's physical structures, maintained by their quantum network, were failing as their control weakened. Network cohesion falling below 50%, Sarah reported. 40%. 30%. They're losing their grip. But victory came with a price. Feedback from the failing network surged through the neural bridges. Fighters screamed as their minds were assaulted by the dying thoughts of an alien collective. Hold on. Marcus urged through gritted teeth, feeling the pressure even in the command center. We can't stop now. Through the pain, humanity pushed forward. The axiom's perfect network, their greatest strength, became their undoing. As it collapsed, their consciousness fragments scattered, unable to maintain coherence without the crystalline precision they relied upon. Network cohesion at 10%. Sarah's voice was strained but triumphant, 5%, total collapse imminent. The quantum storm reached its climax. Throughout the city, crystal structures shattered, raining fragments onto empty streets. The converted collapsed by the thousands, their minds finally free from alien control. When the quantum static cleared, Marcus looked at the readings in disbelief. The axiom network was gone, its perfect patterns replaced by something new, a hybrid quantum field generated by newly awakened human consciousness. Status report, he managed, his voice hoarse. Maya worked through the flood of incoming data. 80% of converted populations showing signs of consciousness restoration. Crystal structures are falling worldwide. The axiom's physical presence is dissolving. Sarah. Marcus called. What are we seeing? Something unprecedented, she replied, wonder in her voice. The human consciousness didn't just defeat the axiom network, it transformed it. We're seeing the emergence of a new kind of quantum consciousness. Human minds evolved by their exposure to axiom technology, creating something entirely new. Marcus watched as the transformed humans began to stir, their minds now operating on a level that bridged the physical and quantum worlds. They hadn't just won back their world, they'd evolved beyond what either humanity or the axiom had been before. What happens now? Maya asked softly. Marcus looked at the dawning sky, where the last crystal fragments were falling like snow. Now we rebuild. But not just our cities, our entire understanding of what humanity can become. The war was over, but humanity's true transformation was just beginning. 5 years after Operation Phoenix, the Earth had become something that neither pure humans or the axiom could have imagined. The crystalline ruins of the invasion had been transformed into shimmering cities that merged biological and quantum architecture, guided by the hybrid consciousness of humanity's next evolution. Sarah Chen stood in her new laboratory atop what had once been an axiom control spire in Hong Kong. The view before her showed a city where quantum-enhanced humans went about their daily lives, their minds existing simultaneously in physical and quantum space. Streets glowed with neural reactive lighting, and buildings shifted their structure in response to the collective needs of their inhabitants. The Galileo probe just cleared Mars' orbit, Dr. Keller announced, now serving as Earth's head of xenoscience. First quantum fold jump in 5 minutes. This was the moment they'd been building toward since their victory. Humanity's first intentional reach into deep space, using their transformed understanding of quantum physics. The probe carried a message, not just to find other civilizations, but to understand what humanity had become. Neural network consensus is holding steady at 99.9%, Maya reported from her station. She, like many others, had chosen to fully embrace the hybrid evolution, her consciousness flowing seamlessly between physical and quantum states. Global mind is in harmony. The term global mind had emerged naturally as humanity discovered their new connected consciousness didn't mean loss of individuality, but rather a deeper understanding of their shared existence. Unlike the axiom's forced conformity, this was a willing union of minds that strengthened rather than suppressed individual thought. Probe approaching quantum fold point, Keller announced. All parameters nominal. Sarah watched as humanity's first quantum fold drive activated. The technology, born from their understanding of axiom science and transformed by human innovation, would allow them to reach distant stars in ways their former conquerors never imagined possible. The probe vanished in a flash of quantum energy, leaving behind a shimmer in spacetime that their new senses could perceive. Within seconds, data began flowing back through the quantum network. The fold had worked perfectly. First stage successful, Maya confirmed. Probe has emerged in the Proxima Centauri system. But the data streaming back contained something unexpected. Sarah leaned forward, her enhanced consciousness processing the quantum signatures. There's something out there. Active quantum networks, dozens of them. Different from the axioms. Other civilizations? Keller asked. Yes, but... Sarah's mind reached through the data. They're like us. Evolved. Changed. The axiom, they didn't just invade Earth. They've been seeding their technology across the galaxy for millennia. The implications dawned on them all at once. Earth wasn't alone in its transformation. Other worlds, other species, had faced the same trial by fire and emerged transformed. The galaxy was full of civilizations that had survived their own versions of the axiom invasion, each evolving in unique ways. They're reaching back, Maya said suddenly. The quantum signatures, they're responding to our probe. They want to communicate. Through their enhanced consciousness, they could feel it, dozens of civilizations, each with their own story of survival and transformation, each reaching out across the quantum void. The axiom, in their attempt to consume and control, had inadvertently created something far more powerful, a galaxy of evolved consciousness, ready to connect. Marcus Rivera, now Earth's primary representative to this emerging galactic community, joined them in the laboratory. So we're not alone, he said, a smile playing on his face. Just as well. We have a lot to share, and even more to learn. Sarah nodded, watching the quantum signals multiply as more civilizations joined the exchange. The axiom had tried to create a galaxy of perfect order, of controlled consciousness and suppressed individuality. Instead, they had sparked an evolution they couldn't control, giving birth to something far more beautiful, a galaxy of diverse minds, each unique, yet all connected in ways the axiom never imagined possible. Send the full first contact package, she instructed. Let's show them what humanity has become. As the quantum network carried Earth's message to the stars, Sarah reflected on their journey. The axiom had come to Earth seeking vessels for their dying consciousness, seeing humans as simple creatures to be overwritten and controlled. They had failed to understand that consciousness wasn't something to be imposed, but something that evolved, adapted, and grew stronger through challenge and change. Humanity had not just survived, they had transformed, taking the very weapon meant to destroy them and reshaping it into something new. And now, as they reached out to their transformed galactic neighbors, they knew this wasn't the end of their evolution, but merely the beginning. The stars above gleamed with new possibility, their light carrying quantum whispers of civilizations ready to share their stories. Humanity had risen from the ashes of invasion not as conquerors or victims, but as pioneers of a new way of existing. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the quantum web that now connected the stars, the last fragments of axiom consciousness witnessed what they had inadvertently created, finally understanding that true power lay not in control, but in the infinite potential for growth, change, and connection that they had fought so hard to suppress. The future beckoned, and humanity, in all its transformed glory, was ready to answer.